All right. I
Who
am ready to
knows?
go if you are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw me playing with myself on stream.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that.
You know, you know,
You know,
I got to give the fans what they want. Got to give them some Only Tusks content.
a preview of our Only Tusks website one day,
Yes.
right? Our
Oh yeah.
pay-per-view for walruses.
Oh yeah. That's how we do. That's how we do. All
All
right.
right.
All right, let's
What do
get
you?
going here. Let's get going.
All
Hey,
right.
everybody, and welcome to another episode of Magic with Zuby. My name is Zuby. If you're brand new to the show is all about a little well known card game called Magic the Gathering and more. And once again, this week, I have brought on the amazing, the talented, the astronomically cool Dante.
Hi, everybody. And for those who are watching over on the Walrus Game Studio channel, this has kind of become a routine for us to simulcast where we talk about what Matt's doing as well as what Walrus Game Studio is doing. A lot of
Yeah.
collaboration between the two efforts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so, just so everybody knows, this podcast is brought to you by Walrus Game Studio. And we're doing another Walrus Watercooler podcast. I promise we will get back to some regularly scheduled Magic the Gathering content, but I think for the next few weeks, it'll be primarily Walrus based because not only do we have a book coming out extremely shortly, we also have a lot of exciting news about our game, Network Engineer Simulator.
Yep.
It's
So it's coming, and there's all kinds of cool development around it. So
yeah, it's it's I don't know. It's still weird. Like it's actually happening. Like we actually have a book coming out.
yeah,
Accidentally went live by accident today.
that was funny.
Yeah, I got the email stating like, "Hey, the book's live." I'm like, "Wait, what? No, we're not ready."
Not yet. Not yet.
No, no.
Not
But
yet at all.
and then the response and feedback we keep getting from Network Engineer Simulator just continues to amaze me.
It really does. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean,
It kind of is.
um, there is, I guess, there's a game for everybody and everything,
Right?
and we're scratching that itch. I mean, I don't want to go. I don't know what your agenda is, but I won't say anything until we get to topics.
Yeah. And so we'll start off with some introductions. So what have you been up to, Dante? You've been doing anything fun? Sure, I know there's been a lot of coding involved.
Fun wise, well, define fun. So, it's no secret that we're based in Ohio, and the weather's been warm. So, I guess fun. I got a jump start on some outdoor stuff that I wanted to address. So, it was fulfilling. Let's put it that way. Fun, sorta fulfilling. Yes.
Nice.
So there's just it will be less to do when it's really warm, and I can enjoy myself more then. So
Oh, I bet. I bet. I don't know what it's like to actually live in winter, but I can say I kind of know what it's like because lately in Florida, it's been cold almost every day, and I'm getting kind of sick of it. Like today, it didn't get up any higher than 66 degrees.
really,
Yeah, and I'm dying here. Okay.
holy, mm, that's kind of
Um,
that's crazy, man. I mean,
it kind of is because I've had to have the heat on my house on like almost every day for the past 4 days in a row because
huh?
it gets cold,
Okay,
and because like anything below 75, I start freezing.
really.
Yeah. So it's not fun. I don't know. I don't want to know what it's like to actually live in a place where it gets actually cold because I would suffer.
It gets cold, man. That's what I can tell you. It's But it's really weird. You get used to it. I
Yeah.
know all the northern people are probably like, dude, yeah, it is. You just get used to it. It's like me complaining about how hot it is when I go to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Well, you get used to it. And,
Yeah. I mean, I just think back to when I was up there last summer when we went to the Irish Fest and everyone was complaining. It's like, it's so humid, it's so hot. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is perfect weather right now.
I'm like, I kept looking at people. I'm like, don't complain to him because he is not the person to talk to about this.
Like, it was
Yeah,
gorgeous out that day.
it really was. People just, you know, they're used to cold and dry for 6 months of
Yeah.
the year. So
I know. Like, anytime I go to a climate that is not as humid as Florida, I feel like I shrivel up.
yeah.
And then, like, I'm praising for the humidity when I come back to Tampa.
That Matt, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know if I will ever look forward to hot and humid in my lifetime, unless there's a
I
very
mean,
large body of water for me to jump into.
it's hard to describe because it's because I know what you mean. Like, the times like I go to Vegas every year for work, right?
Hmm.
It's so dry out there, and I feel so gross, and I feel like my skin just shriveling. Even like, try
Really?
moisturizer and stuff, eye
Oh man.
drops and nose spray, nasal spray, and it's like, and then when I get back in Tampa, I'm like, oh my god, thank God, the humidity.
I go through none of that when I'm in Vegas. It's just like, it's hot.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. One time, early in my career, right, I was doing some work that I really am not going to talk about, but I was in the Texas Panhandle,
Oh, I thought
and
you were talking about your Area 51 work. Okay. Oh, that's right. We
I
can't
was
talk about that.
I was in the Texas Panhandle in the middle of summer, and holy f, man! I was outside of Amarillo, about 45 minutes outside of Amarillo, Texas, and you want to talk about hot and dry? It was 115 degrees,
Oh my
no
god.
humidity, right? And the weird thing is you actually, because there was no humidity, you couldn't, at least for me, guy who's used to not humid weather, right? um, you couldn't really tell. I mean, it was kind of dangerous, right? The only way you knew was once you jumped in the swimming pool and got out, and you're like, oh crap, man, it is hot.
Yeah.
But it was fierce, man. That week was just brutal. So
Yeah. It's normally for work, we go to Vegas in June. And there was one year we went and it was so hot outside, but it was really breezy, right? It's
hmm
different in Florida. Like, when it's hot and humid but breezy, it's not that bad, right? Like, it's
right.
bad, but it's at least tolerable. But when it's like hot and dry and windy, it's horrible. It's just, you have nothing but hot air blowing in your. It feels like you're standing in front of an oven.
Yeah, I think was the saving grace. There was no wind for that period of time. I mean, it was just a hot, still, very dry. So it's just like being like literally in an oven. I think
Yeah,
if there had been sand blowing around, or, I mean, it was a very dusty environment, it would have been miserable. But yeah, you do bring up a good point, very good point. But it was um, it was interesting being in that kind of heat for a little bit. It's really weird. It's strange. You got to
yeah.
really be careful. Hydrate. You're constantly drinking. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's. I feel like I don't know. It's and maybe this could just be because I'm so used to humid environments, but at least when I'm in dry environments, I can feel I know when I'm getting thirsty and all
hmm
that. Like, when you're dehydrating more compared to what in humid weather, it's, I don't know, it can almost be like tricky in a sense, especially when it gets to that like wet bulb humidity,
Oh
or like you
God, yeah,
just can't cool down at all.
yeah. That's I hate that, man. I hate that feeling.
Yeah, it's bad.
So
Oh
all
man.
right.
All right, so we got that. I've been this past week. I'm starting work on book 2 of Darkstorm, our
Hmm.
second book.
Yeah.
And I'm back on that stupid World of Warcraft crack. I mean, I'm never going to quit it ever, but I'm
Man,
back on
I
it.
tell you what, it's got its hooks in me, but it's uh it's a rare moment when I even bother to log into it. But
Well, I know we're all going to be logging into it this summer with the new expansion coming out
that is true. We will be doing that for sure.
because we know. I think maybe that's why we're trying to get so much work done on the game and the book because we know come summer we're going to be obsessed.
Oh yeah, there's just just a ton of stuff happening. I mean, it's kind of already happening. There's a lot going on already, and it's only gonna it's just gonna be a crazy year for us.
You mean for Walrus or just life in general?
Well, a little bit of life in general, but definitely for you and I, when the rest of the Walrus team, right? We got a ton going on.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well,
you know,
I guess
play test.
let's get into Walrus stuff. Yeah, let's get
All
into it
right, sure.
and start talking about what we got going on.
All right. Well, the first and most important thing is, we're producing that the game Network Engineer Simulator, and we are, we've gotten some initial feedback, and we took that initial feedback very seriously. And I think it's safe for those who think it's just like, oh, it's just a wiring closet game. Literally, it's just the satisfaction of like, I would say the same kind of satisfaction you would get from like a power washer simulator where you just
Hmm.
have to hose everything down correctly, and in this case you just got to click everything in the right place correctly, and then that's it, and you move on to the next thing. If if that's how you're seeing this game, uh, it's I'd say that's a little short-sighted. Yes,
Agreed.
there is going to be like an arcade mode, but there's more to it than just that. There's more to it than just clicking cables, right? Um, and then there's of course super hard mode, uh, whatever you want to call it, epic mode, legendary mode, where it's we're really looking at it um, very seriously to try to replicate the real world. Will it happen in the demo release? No, it's not going to be there in the demo release. I don't know when it's going to show up, but the roadmap is that at some point in time, this game, you will literally be able to do like simulated network traffic on it and
Yep.
to different devices. Now, to that end, we've already written the code. I maybe shouldn't have spoiled that, but we're kind of trying to get a lot of the hard stuff out of the way first.
Hmm.
Um, but the back end code to manage frames, real Ethernet frames, they are modeled after the real deal. Preamble, MAC addresses, the frame, the inner block gap, all that stuff, all accounted for.
And he's
What?
writing this from scratch, people, which just blows my mind.
Well, I I mean, Matt's sandbagging a little bit because I do have an engineering degree, and early in my life, I did do a little early networking, very early on in my career. But I am not nearly the caliber of network engineers like Matt and some other people on the team, right? I know the kind of down and dirty basics.
Well, and the thing that you don't sell yourself short on because it's we've had a lot of conversations just like how an Ethernet frame operates, right? The very basics, and then we basically explain it, and then you just code it, which to me just blows my mind. Just that you're able to take that information and make it into a usable code like that. I don't know how you that is what amazes me. Like I don't know how you do that. You know,
I,
like I can read and understand your code, right?
right.
But I don't know how you just create it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people have that. How do I put it? Like in my real work, my real job, right? There is skepticism when I just produce things on the fly. Like we'll get out of a meeting,
Hmm.
half an hour later, I'm like, okay, take a look at this. there's usually, especially in the management team, greeted with a little skepticism, like he didn't really think this through. But I'm going to be honest with you. There's, obviously I've got a few of these little gray things on me, right? And there, you reach a point where your brain is just wired differently than most human beings. That's the only way I can put it. I'm able to kind of conceptualize things into data structures inside my head. I'm not patting myself on the back. I think that there's a lot of people at my level who can do these sorts of things, right? So,
Hmm.
I
It
could say
makes
the same thing
sense.
about network engineering. Like when you guys start talking about, subnets and all this other stuff, and I'm just sitting there like, yeah, if I were to be setting that up, everybody in the world would just you'd have straight access to every single asset on the network because I would totally bodger it up, right?
Allow
So,
any.
yeah, like everybody would be getting to everything. So, you know, I think when people become very, very good at what they know how to do for a living, um, I think it's natural and it maybe seems like almost crazy or like, wow, I can't
Yeah,
believe somebody
yeah.
can just do that. It it's not. It's what I'm trained to do. I am trained to take concepts and translate them into code, just
Well,
like
no,
a lot of
and
people are.
I get that because I can do the same, like you said, with networking. Like I can, either develop a network out of scratch, make it work, design, implement, write up network switches from scratch, or like look at a bunch of networking code, and it makes all sense to me. But you look at it, you may be like, what is all this? So I mean,
Yeah,
it's same thing, right?
it is. I
Yeah.
mean, now the thing with networking that has an advantage over, say, solving another business problem, right? Um, is that networking is really hand in glove with the whole concept of computer science, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like 8 bytes in the preamble. Well, you can represent that as an array of 8 bytes in memory or in code, right? And there are, you know, what I forget, 6 bytes for each MAC address. So I mean, the Ethernet frame itself, as mystical as this thing might seem to the most of the world, actually is it's a well structured data object. It
Mm-hmm.
actually is really well structured. It has a variable length, but you can easily account for that, and it's all just bytes, and it's electrically represented on the wire as a series of bytes in a certain order, and that there are certain ones that have hard coded values. They have to have that value, or else they are considered to be a bad. It's considered to be a bad frame, and it'll be dropped. So um, in the end, the Ethernet frame was actually the easiest thing to put together. To code that was really straightforward. The standards are there. You just got to read them and have someone like you available to answer some serious questions about, you know, like for instance, one of the biggest things we struggled with was, okay, when a machine boots, when a workstation or a server boots, what is the very first frame that server sends on the wire, right? And I could not find an answer on the internet. So if somebody is listening to this and has that answer, I'd love to, just out of curiosity's sake, I would love to know what the very first frame is. Now, Matt and a lot of other networking people have said it's up for grabs, right? It's
It
whatever.
depends.
It depends, right? Like if it needs DHCP, that's probably one of the first things it's going to do. It's going to go looking for an IP address. So it's going to issue a DHCP frame. So, and I get that. Or if it's hard coded, maybe it's a DNS. It's trying to resolve its
Or
DNS
like a
host to see if,
Kerberos request if it's on an Active Directory domain.
yep,
You know.
something, right? So there's some random. So in the end, we architected the game so that there's only one of two possible options. It's either the first frame that any connected host will toss out in game to the network will be And again, this is advanced stuff. This isn't going to be available right away, right? We're talking
Hmm.
way in the future. But we've settled in. It's either going to be a DNS frame or it's going to be a DHCP frame. Done, right?
Just to make it simple, because
Just to make it simple, right?
I mean, yeah, because we can't account for every single possibility. I mean,
Right.
not with
We're-
just this small team. We have to make it simple.
Yeah, and honestly, even getting down to that level, we feel like we've done some work, right?
Yeah.
We've tried to make this close to reality. I mean, if you want reality, go buy the equipment and the wires and plug them into the wall
Yeah.
and have at it. But we're just trying to build something that can be as simple as an arcade and as zen as connecting cables with lights
Cleaning
turning
up
on,
closets and all that stuff, and
cleaning up a wiring closet. Um, there's more to the game than just that. There is a backstory to the game as well.
which I can't.
Uh,
Well, I mean, no,
we
we're not going
won't.
to spoil it or anything, but I can't wait till we start developing it and designing it, because that's going to be fun.
Yeah. So there's actually a real game story that goes with
Yeah.
this. But if you need something as just give me beginner level or just give me a data center so I can just kind of plug wires in and have some fun and zen out, man, it's going to be available to you. If you want to say I need to log into a console, pull up a net OS and start monitoring packets and all that stuff, eventually
Switching
we're going to get
VLAN.
there.
Yeah, we're going to get to a point where, like I said, I've mentioned to a lot of people, we're focusing on layer 2 first. So
Layer 2.
when we get to that point with the terminal, we'll do a lot of basic stuff, right? Like turning up and down ports, setting speed in duplex, changing VLANs,
Hmm.
you know, turn what I know there's like a million other things, but it's just basics like that, right?
It,
Oh,
if you are, I will put it this way: if you are a person who wants to just connect some wires and see some results and kind of progress the game story, you're going to have a game to play. If you're somebody who wants to essentially get in real dirty and play with like routing and very complex networking tasks, we're hoping, again, big word, we're hoping to also provide that for you, experience for you
yeah.
as well, where you have an OS and you can monitor, network traffic moving back and forth between different devices, unplug a cable, watch alarms go off, that kind of thing. So, it's going to be a lot of fun, we think, and I think that there are going to be different people coming to it for different reasons. But overall, it should be enjoyable to people.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited about it. It's as mentioned earlier, we've been getting so much great feedback from it. I mean, we have people joining our Walrus Discord almost every day asking, "Can I play test? I want to play this." We even have like network engineers and architects, people who've been in the business for a long time, reaching out like, "Hey, I want to help. I want to play." It's like, and it's funny to me because it's funny because we've gotten some that like been in the industry for 10 to 20 years. This is their day job, and now they want to play a game that hey, this is what you do for a living.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, I and it's encouraging, right? I mean, it
yeah.
really is. I mean, it's getting the kind of feedback. It's encouraging. It makes you want to do it. So, and we've reached out to. So there's music. There's music in the game. That kind
Yes.
of. I wouldn't. Just synth kind of.
Like
I
sort of
wouldn't.
like lo-fi vibes. Like
Yeah.
like kind of chill music where it's you don't even really notice it per se. You know what I mean? Like it just sort of blends in with the game. But if you take it away, you'll just hear the AC ducts running.
Yep. And to that end, we have reached somebody that we are aware of, right?
Ooh, I need
We
to
got
ask you about that if there's been any update on it.
No, I think we just need to ping that person again. But
Okay.
there's somebody who we had the opportunity to listen to some music that he had put together in the past. It's not like he does it for a living, but I feel like he's pretty good at it. And I'm definitely not going to say anything more than that on this topic, other than we have reached out to him, and uh, uh, he looked us over and has expressed some tentative excitement about putting some vibes together for us, putting some chill kind of music soundtrack together. He mentioned that he's tried to do that in the past and reached out to other game studios, and it didn't pan out for him, but um, you know he said that he'd be willing to talk to us to see what we could work out.
Yeah.
So may have may have somebody who you know it would be really cool if this individual worked with us. I like
Yeah.
this. I've never met him in person, but I've seen plenty of him, and I think he's a fantastic human being based off of what I've seen of this person. So we'll let it go at that.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I need to try to get them on the podcast too, just to interview them.
Well, we'll try.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get to that point.
Yeah. So I mean that's exciting. It's we've got someone doing the logo for the game right now. Actually, they're working on concept art for the logo,
Yep.
and so hopefully we'll have that. We'll have some idea of like what it'll look like in the next couple weeks and all that. God, what else? Oh. So I don't know yet, but I did see some pictures from our other dev of our demo level is starting to get built, because a couple weeks ago I made some Visio diagrams for how I wanted the demo level to be presented in the puzzles with it. And
Okay.
they've been taking my Visios and putting them in the game now. They've built 4 out of the 8 racks. And
Nice.
I think there's still some programming having to be done behind it, like making sure port 1 connects to port 45 and it turns on whatever services and stuff. And but it's just kind of cool. Like, I've seen some early pictures of what the racks look like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my Visio diagrams coming to life.
Yeah, I saw those images too. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool. That's
yeah.
pretty cool. So,
So that almost kind of gets me excited. Like, hopefully we're not too far off from a demo.
we should be getting close to something.
Yeah, I'm
Um, you know,
not trying to
look,
rush anything or anything, but
I'm just a back end coder guy. The other guys are in charge of all the fun stuff.
what are you talking about? Wait until we get into all the different layer 2 protocols, the difference between CDP and LLDP, and exactly how spanning tree protocol works with rapid spanning tree protocol and port
Yeah, that's all.
PVSTP.
So again, that's all code.
I
that's
know. And setting up BPDU protocols. And okay, I'm dreading when we get to the spanning tree part. Oh my god, it's so
you started explaining that to me, and I
yeah.
also looked that up online. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
That's
it's
going to
not
be
fun.
interesting.
And what's funny about spanning tree is so much of it is automated at this point. Like, when you configure spanning tree on a Switch nowadays, it's really just it's essentially typing in spanning tree turn on, and then it just does everything else behind the scenes. Like, there's still other stuff you can configure and edit, if you want to get that granular, but yeah, there's so much behind the scenes work that happens with spanning tree.
Well,
We'll
we'll
get to
get
it.
there.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. So
Those are going to be very fun nights, aka no, it's not.
no, it's not. It's going to be like, why doesn't this work?
It's going to remind me all of my Net Plus, CCNA, and CCMP studying of having to understand how all those operate.
See, and you thought you'd never have practical use for all that studying. Here you go, right?
Oh, yeah, great.
Hmm. Great. I just
Uh,
want to, I just want to put, so to speak, as they say in the film industry, put this in the can one day and, get on to one of our other Walrus projects, other game projects. I think the next one. So just, in case anybody goes to our website, it's seriously looking like there's really two options on the table. One, we may go back to our kind of starter game, the one where we're trying to learn how to do a lot of things. Well, we've been doing that with Network Engineer Simulator, so not sure how much that's actually needed anymore. But Walrus A Go Go, the kind of PvP, Soul Survivor, Last Walrus on an Iceberg game. I think we have to make that now,
oh, yeah.
just because of the name, right?
Not just the name, but I think everything you guys are learning while designing and coding Network Sim, you'll just be able to apply it a lot easier to Walrus A Go Go. And now that we have version control too, holy crap,
Oh,
it won't
yeah.
be just you working on it.
That's true. That is massively true.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that have we ever officially streamed like like
Oh, the
the
Walrus A Go Go.
AI? Yeah, the AI guys.
I know we had some point last year. We did.
All right, I think only the people on my stream are going to be able to pick this up.
Yeah, we won't be able to see it on here. But I mean, let's save that for another time because it would take me a little bit too long to try to set it up here. But yeah, that could be a thing where when we get to a point where we can show people like what you've done in there.
Yeah, it's just the AI is phenomenal. It's just
Yeah.
the movement of the wildlife is really what we liked, what we've developed, and I think we need to give it a platform to shine on because
Oh yeah.
it was so cool. But so we'll probably crank that one out, and then I don't know, there's been a few people inside the company who want to take a really big bat and take a really big swing at something. So we'll see.
I
You
know.
know.
I'm just gonna stick with books for now.
Well, you're one of the drivers,
I
one of
know.
the
I know.
proponents.
I know. I
You
am.
can't you can't just sit you can't throw us out there and then just sit behind the book, right? By the way, our
Yes, Walrus T-shirt.
walrus swag right there.
So that kind of leads into some more swag news. Kind of a nice good segue. So I am working on a little giveaway for people who purchase our book. I don't have all the details of it yet, but it's going to essentially be if you can show proof of purchase of the book, the physical book, not just the PDF. Maybe we can do something special for the PDF as well too. But for people who actually purchase the book, there's going to be some stuff given away, and I think it's going to be cool. I need to order the products and just make sure that they come to us decently in the way that I want them to. And yeah, so I'm excited about that. There'll be more details to come. This is an announcement of an announcement. And speaking of another announcement, we have officially ordered the printer proof of the book. I'm hoping it comes soon. Like I keep checking it every day, and it says it's in line at the printer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just one copy. Come on. How long does it take?
Yeah. And if I may put in a plug for ourselves, right? A little, we had some unsolicited feedback on the book. We weren't looking for it, but it was
Oh,
provided
that's
to
right.
us. And Matt, you heard it in your own, in your own words, what was said.
Let me actually look it up. Hold on.
Oh, well, he's looking that up. Basically, it was very positive, right? And this is the person providing the feedback probably sees tons of this stuff all the time,
Yeah.
because it's the nature of their job. So, it was welcome to hear that, what they had to say.
Yeah. So hold on. I just had it. And then, of course, I see a work email that distracts me. Okay. They said, this is a gorgeous book packed with quality art that breathes life into the NPCs, a ton of interesting locations to explore, and a compelling adventure premise.
There you go.
That's sort of our first review, and I gotta say, that's pretty damn awesome.
I would agree with that. Pretty damn awesome. And again, this comes from a person who is is doing this for a living. Like they have to look at all these like different submissions and content all the time as part of their job. So
Yeah. I'll
I'll
take
take it.
it. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. So as soon as, because we're essentially ready to make this product go live, like make it public.
Hmm.
And it went accidentally public today, and I had to quickly scramble and say no, don't make it go public yet. But the thing that we're just waiting on the proof, and as long as the proof looks good, it's then I can actually set a date and start, the marketing campaign. It's just hard to
Yep,
start a marketing campaign when you don't have any idea when you can actually have it release.
that's true.
So it
Um, but do you want to give them the name of it? Like,
Oh yeah,
tease it
I
out
think we
there
did
again.
it, yeah, last week. Darkstorm Adventures: Silver Flame's Legacy: Escape to Stangate. The trailer is out. It can be found on our Walrus Game Studio YouTube channel. Uh, you can see the artwork of the book. Our artist Vouter did amazing. We're
Crazy
hiring him
work, man.
again. We're hiring him
Oh my
again.
God.
Like,
Listen, he is our artist, for lack of a better, you know, wording.
not that we're ever gonna go not get other artists or anything, but like
Right. But
it just, yeah, he did such an amazing job. Like I couldn't like be happier.
yeah, I
And
mean, he took ideas, so sort of like the way Matt at the beginning of this cast kind of tried to butter me up a little bit and say how great of a programmer I was, right? It's the same thing with this guy, man. We just threw some random ideas and concepts at him, and he came back with exactly what we were thinking,
but
like
better.
visualizing,
Like
but better,
better. Like
better than what we
I
were even
wasn't picturing on
visualizing.
that kind of detailed and scale. And it
Yeah.
reminds me when some point last year, you, me, and Kurt, we were talking about the kind of fantasy art we want, and we were looking at
Hmm.
a whole bunch of concepts of
Yeah,
the old 80s and 90s fantasy style art, and he nailed it.
he did. He did. So, just for those listening, right? A lot of our fantasy kind of visualizations, the art that we're a little bit old school. We're more in the 90s, late 80s kind of art style with fantasy art. That's kind of what we grew up with. That's kind of what we like. Um, we're a lot of the, I think this is a fair, not criticism, but it's a fair statement. A lot of the modern artwork around Dungeons and Dragons, if we can say that word without getting sued, right? Or Pathfinder, or or any of these other systems, right? They're more realistic looking. They're more like, what if it was real kind of artwork, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more realistic looking. Whereas, the earlier art stuff was more fantastical. The big, huge warrior looks more like a bodybuilder than a functional warrior with a
Yeah.
big, heavy sword. You know, these are fantastic. It's fantastical imagery for fantastical games, right? And the almost photorealism of the new artwork. I don't know. It seemed like it's a little too diminishing, in my opinion. It's a little
It's a
too,
little homogenous, little
yeah,
static. Um, And I would agree with that, but as you can see, I was flipping through my Pathfinder Player Core book. I will say, because when we talked about this before, we did find a bunch of Paizo art that whatever artist Paizo gets, like it kind of is reminiscent um, of that art we're talking about. Where compared
Yep.
to, not that this is bad, it's not bad. Like it's good
But
art, but you can tell there's it's
it's
it's hard
just
to
flat.
like, yeah, because the best way I can describe it is magic cards, right? Um,
Hold on, I think I can. I think I got this figured out. So you see this, right? This is from the GM core. I think this is what Pathfinder and Paizo are doing right. Their
yeah,
artwork is action oriented. Something's happening in that art, right? Whereas you look at some of the other stuff and it's more of a a static picture. It's not so much there's action happening, it's more of like a scene is rendered, right?
so
And
this is going to be a little bit hard to see, but so I've got two magic cards here. One that's a very old magic card, and one that is from a relatively, I think, 2 years ago. So this is the one that's from 2 years ago. I don't know if you can see it very well, because it's
yep, I can see
so
it.
so that's the art here. But then if you look at the one from, this is like from the early '90s.
Right. You see that?
Let's see, it's this is what we're kind of talking about, where it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look
It's not photorealistic. There no one's
yeah.
trying to make that scene
Like
look.
here's another one too, like just of an island, right? And it
Mhm.
looks, it's very minimalist, it's basic, and it's gorgeous.
Mhm.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah, so it's you know, fantastical fantastical settings and stories deserve fantastical,
yeah,
artwork in our opinion. It's not something that it's like I don't need it to look realistic. I want it to be like, oh my god, that's really cool looking, right? And inspiring. So, you know,
yeah,
that's just how Walrus looks at its art.
yep. And I can't. I so as I'm writing book two right now, I'm almost done with a rough draft of chapter one. I'm just starting to picture what some of the art may look like in my head, you know, and just
Dude,
excited about it. Um,
I can't wait to see what if Wilder is doing like the book, like the ship art. I would love to see like the enemy ship and what that's going to look like,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, well, speaking of book two, so we don't really have much else on book one right now, because it's, as soon as those proofs come, it's, you know, well,
Hmm.
as long as it looks good, it's up to, snuff, then we can set a release date. But book two, so I've actually been working on book two the past week, and almost done with my rough draft of chapter one. And then I've already been plotting and outlining what chapter two is going to be. And
Hmm.
I'm trying not to rush the process, because I kind of want to start playtesting chapter one already, but I know I don't want to do it yet. I want to have a rough outline of all the chapters first, because I know as we start playtesting internally and when we bring in some external playtesters, the story's gonna change. And that could affect how it changes for the upcoming chapters as well too.
Well,
So,
that's true. That's true. Hang on a second.
well, looks like your head's, oh, was your headset about to die?
It was getting red.
Oh,
So
that's what that red was. Okay.
yeah, that's what the red was right there. It's letting me know that you probably need to plug it in.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could say about book two, but I think it just needs
Yep.
to just come out, out of our minds and onto paper and pencil and then into writing and then artwork. It's it's a great storyline, man. I mean, we've got
I
this
know.
thing all planned out. Like the roadmap for this book series is really good. in my opinion.
Well, see,
Really good content.
and it's funny you mention that, because even though like early on I knew what was going to happen in book 2, like the basics of it, and since starting it, it's already changed. Like that's just part of the creative process, right? Where
Yep.
it's already changed, and I have an idea of what I want to do for book 3, but I know that's going to change by the time I get to it. So,
yep. It's going to be a fun little trilogy, you know?
Yeah, it is. I'm hoping, barring life, that I can get book 2 done this year, but we'll see,
Hey, look, this time last year, we were just starting to consider it, right? We weren't even talking about any pre-production, any thinking, no play testing, no concepts, no ideas.
I was
nothing,
still writing it. Yeah.
And
I was still writing the rough draft.
Yeah, here we are Here we are a year later. It's ready to just have the key turned, and we've already got a head start on a bunch of stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
It'll
be a lot quicker to lay out the design this time, because.
Now, yeah, I mean, a lot of the hurdles, if you will, in producing content like this, right? You only have to get through them once, and then you know what they are, and they go quickly now. Like this next set of iterations, as we go through all the steps, will go through much, much faster. The edit process, all of it, right? The publishing, we've got that down. We don't have to have weeks and weeks of those discussions anymore. So,
yeah, you're right.
I'm really optimistic that 2024 is going to see the early part is going to see the release of Volume 1. Volume 2 comes out, sometime later in 24, and 25 we'll see the actual end of the trilogy. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yep. I still think that we should a little certain gnome wizard should just inherit the whole world, but and to people who listen to this, one day you will understand what we mean by that one little gnome wizard.
I think we'll need to start having that gnome wizard pop up more when the first book officially comes out. Because he's such a little bastard.
I almost want to get something where like he just goes right across the screen, right? Like, some animation that can play on top of like the stream stuff, or play it inside OBX. And,
you know what we need? Okay, this is totally stealing from the Y files. Instead of a hecklefish, we have a little gnome, a little digital gnome, just spouting shit.
We do. You know what we do?
And we need peeplet gnome plushies.
Gnome plushies. we are okay. So we are doing that, right? Because obviously we don't want to ridicule our walrus, right? The walrus is the walrus, right? But peeplet, the gnome,
he's our shit lord.
You know what we need to do too is one day see if she'll do it. Get the real peeplet and see if she'll go on stream with us
and do the voice.
And just she doesn't really do the voice, but she can just talk. She can talk about the days when it was me versus her on the DPS wars, Warlock versus Mage in WoW. And
didn't she also play EverQuest with her too, or no?
No, it was just WoW.
Oh, just WoW. Okay.
Yeah, she was the gnome mage, and I was the somewhat hacky warlock who was trying to keep up on the DPS meters with the mage.
Oh God.
But I will tell you this: I did have crowd control on my side, so
it's true. Feared everything.
Yeah. Or I'll tell you the one set of dungeons I really enjoyed was, and I know we're kind of going off track a little bit. I forget which expansion it was in. It was in the expansion where the Exodar were introduced formally into the game.
Burning Crusade.
I think that was
Yeah,
it.
because it's
Yeah,
with the
it might have been.
Draenei and all that, and the Blood Elves.
Yeah. So there were some dungeons where um
Got a kitty.
there were some dungeons where they there were demons in the dungeon, and you could control them as a warlock. You could take control of that demon in the
Oh,
dungeon.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I forgot all about that.
Dude, I would do that constantly. I would get a hold of one and throw him out there to like just get crushed. And as soon as he got crushed, I'd take the next one and throw him into the mix. And it was great, man. I had a blast with that one. So
Oh
they
God.
but yeah, so we should get the real people on here, because she knows how to throw down the sass. She was just
Yeah.
as sarcastic as they get. uh, you know, just constantly giving me shade, and it was so much fun, so much fun. So,
Well, as good as it is to go down memory lane, and we've probably got some more memory lane stuff to go down. I've got some listener Q&A for us.
let's
Um,
go.
let's do this. So, and if you're listening live and you want to get your question in, go ahead and ask now. But we've got some other listener questions that have come in, and we're gonna start off with these. Our first question. Okay, our first question is, how did Walrus Game Studio start? I think it's more for you, Dante.
Okay, so the other co-founder of his first name's Kurt. I don't think it's any big mystery. You can go to our website and see our names. Um, but so Kurt and I, um, lifelong friends, and we met way back when we were younger, and I do say lifelong, although we met mostly just after college, but honestly, lifelong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we both got married and kind of lost track of each other for a while, but then we reconnected, and when we reconnected, we had some ideas on some things we wanted to get accomplished, right? And ironically enough, the thing that was grabbing our attention is we wanted to do something around um, the Raspberry Pi and prosthetics, and maybe being able to command the device to do some robotics kind of assistance, because there was a health issue in his extended family, and he wanted to be able to provide some kind of like automation tools, or things that I wouldn't say like the Star Wars hand that Luke Skywalker got, but something that could help people grab things and hold them better. Basic robotics, right? And so we wanted to kind of use the Raspberry Pi as a platform to do some real engineering work around this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it started. That's how we got back together. And I think at some point Walrus might actually dive into that. But then the pandemic hits. And so pandemic hits, and Kurt and I can't meet anymore. And it's really kind of hard to do a collaborative robotics project just kind of by yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we just start playing a ton of video games, and we had been playing Dungeons and Dragons in real life, in person. But that campaign obviously falls apart because of COVID. And I know this is a long story, but
It's
this
okay.
is how it starts,
This is a
right?
genesis of Walrus.
Genesis of Walrus. So what ends up happening is Kurt and I get online and we start playing video games together, and then he says, "Hey, I know these other guys that I work with. They play video games too. Why don't we get them in and play some games together, so it's not just you and I?" And so we did, and there's some other stuff to the story, but so we set up the Discord channel. We get everybody into this, and it's not the Walrus Discord channel either. There's the Black Walrus channel and the White Walrus channel. The black one is internal, the white one is external. There's no significance to the color except that they're opposites, right? So
He's
just
just talking
throwing
about
that
the
out.
icons, folk. folks. All right.
Yeah, just the walrus.
Just the walrus icons, and because we have
Yeah,
our, like you said, our public walrus
yeah.
one, which is the white icon, and then
Uh,
our internal one where we talk about just our projects is a black icon. So we can tell the difference.
yeah, it's that's all it is, folks. That's all it is. Um, so
Just wanted to explain it before anybody takes it the wrong idea.
yeah, don't take it the wrong way. In fact, I wouldn't even call it black. It's the negative. It's the inverse image of our logo.
Yeah.
Our logo is kind of a gray on white, and when you inverse it, it ends up being like kind of black on some kind of light tan color, right? So it's just the inverse of the image. It has no meaning other than that we can tell them apart. But going back to the story, so we have a separate channel. It has nothing to do with Walrus. It was just a place where we played video games and talked to each other. And so then we started playing Dungeons and Dragons together too. So we played some video games, and then somebody randomly, I don't even know who, said something about Dungeons and Dragons, and Kurt and I were like, well, we both play and we love it. And so Matt plays, and so we roped Matt in, and we got some other people that we know, some other friends. And before long, as a group of people, not Walrus Game Studio yet, but as a group of people, we were A, playing video games, and B, playing Dungeons and Dragons. And then Matt one day says, I've always wanted to write my own module. I've been working on this thing since I was a kid in high school, and I've got this great idea for a world, continent, and storylines. And we're like, okay. And we're like, well, why don't you flesh some of that out? Maybe we can play it. We weren't even thinking about publishing at that point. Then one day we're playing a video game, and my son was in college at the time, and he was, he was working on a game design degree. So by the way, if anyone's looking for a young kid who's very energetic, and he's looking to use his degree to get a job in the video game industry, but he's and yes, he does do some work for us, but he needs to expand his wings and kind of get out there. But
Can't
anyway,
work for dad.
can't work for dad. But anyway, so one day, to make this super long story a little shorter, one day somebody in chat says, well, how hard is it to make a video game? And I had been kind of dabbling with it because of Antonio, right? I loaded up Unreal. I was just horsing around with it on the side, playing with it, goofing off with it. And I make the dumbass comment of saying, well, it's actually not that hard. If you know C++ or some, real low level language like that, and you got an eye for graphics and you can understand logic and those sorts of things, it's not terribly difficult. So, one thing led to another, and before you knew it, people in our group expressed interest in doing something. So we said, okay, fine, let's do this. So Kurt and I said, well, at the very least, you and I, we'll start the company and we'll make a video game and we'll see where it goes. Because, it was during COVID. What else was there to do except,
not much.
worry that not much. So we legally formed Walrus as a legal company, and the rest is kind of history. Then Matt said, well, are you guys just going to do video games? And we said, no, we're a gaming company. We don't want to just be video games. The word is gaming. So that's when we decided that we would bring Matt in, and Matt would work on the TTRPG side as well as, play test for us on the video game side. So that's really kind of it. That's the whole background. It's a very long-winded story. I wish it had a simple kind of thing, but it was honestly more like a journey. It's almost like asking Frodo, hey, how did you guys end up destroying that ring? Well, we
just walked there.
Yeah, we just walked there and we threw it in the volcano. It's really, there's a lot to the story. So it was just one day after another day, and before you knew it, there was consensus among some people that they wanted to do something fun and interesting, and that's really where we're at. It's passion.
Yeah.
It all boils down to one single word. Every person in this company had a passion to produce games, whether they be video games, TTRPGs. We even have a board game coming up through the ranks, right?
We've been working on that. Yeah.
Right. So we are an entertainment company, if you will, and everyone on the team has a passion for that. So I think that's really how it started. Everyone just had a passion for an aspect of this, and we had a company that we could kind of umbrella everything over. So, but it's just two lifelong friends who said, let's do something. We've got the skills to do this. Let's go for it.
No, I love it. I love it. All right, so we got our next question here. Sort of a two-parter. First, what is your favorite video game? And then the next part of the question is, and what is your favorite game series?
Okay.
I already know my answers.
I'll go first. All right.
All right.
So my most favoritist game ever, video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Goes back. I would say it goes back to our arcade games, right? I loved Galaga. I was hooked on Galaga, man.
Yeah.
Such a great game, man. I loved it. Plain and simple, right? The other one I would give honorable mention to, believe it or not, was this kind of cheesy little, I don't know what to describe it other than a side scroller, right? Kind of thing. But it was this old arcade game called Spy Hunter.
Yeah.
I loved the original Spy Hunter where, you get inside you got to drive into the truck, you get new special powers, and then you can put an oil slick down, and it's just a dumb, stupid little game, right? That I could play between classes in college. I loved Spy Hunter. Just absolutely loved it.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
Okay. Now, as far as a video game series, right? I got to give it to World of Warcraft, man. Flat out. Look, you can say what you want about Blizzard. You can management.
There's a lot to say about Blizzard.
You could say even a lot more about Activision, right? But we'll put that aside. But Blizzard management, you could say some things about. Put that aside. But if you want to talk about a game series, right, that just survived and just flourished and is still going, I think it's going pretty strong.
20 years this year.
Yeah, and it was a good expansion, too.
Dragonflight was amazing.
Yeah, Dragonflight was a great expansion. It really breathed life back into it. So I got to give it to Blizzard and World of Warcraft, and I hope that now that Microsoft's involved, that their management isn't so.
We'll see.
Well, the way they are. So we'll see.
We'll see. So my favorite video game of all time is Final Fantasy VI on Super Nintendo.
Okay.
For anybody who knows me, that probably shouldn't be a surprise. And then my favorite video game series, you could probably see some of it behind me up on my shelf, Legend of Zelda. It's Legend of Zelda. I'm looking at a replica Master Sword right in front of me. I don't know if you see. Look, replica Master Sword and Shield.
Holy shit. That's for real, man.
Yep. Real sword and shield.
Damn. Well, if I ever have the cash, I know what I'm buying you. A for real version of it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I love Legend of Zelda. It's just my favorite game series of all time.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, now, non-video game, I will just say this. Non-video game, of course, it was... how do I say this? I'm going to go with my favorite TTRPG. I will go with D&D 3.5 and or the Pathfinder equivalent of that.
Oh, Pathfinder First Edition?
Yeah.
Which is essentially, it was essentially like 3.75.
Right. I really enjoyed that. And look, I don't want to turn this into a podcast about 5e or the recent activities of said WotC, Hasbro, or whatever, right? That's
Yeah.
not what this is about. But 5e was great. It was a great way to introduce my kids into Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh
and it
yeah.
worked great. It was fantastic. It was a great way to introduce a lot of people into this, into this entertainment, right? Into this game. And it worked great. It was unbelievably worked great. But after a while, having played some of the other systems, right, and the crunchier systems, especially Pathfinder and 3.5, and some of the additions before that, you know, 5e started leaving me. When I started getting in the mid ranks, like getting a character to level 10 or 12 or something like that, it really just it started mechanically not being fun, right? Like it just
Mm-hmm.
seemed like it was just more of the same. It was like the numbers changed, but it's basically still the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
you know, and I didn't like that. It's a great system. 5e is fantastic. I'm not dissing it, but after when you start really getting up there, it just didn't feel like it was growing with you, right?
Yep. Makes
Um,
sense.
and so I really now Pathfinder Second Edition, man, oof, that
I know.
that 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 really,
That's kind of taken the spot as my favorite
yeah,
because it's
it
just been
really,
so good.
it is. I really love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So
All right. So our next question here: what was the inspiration behind Network Engineer Simulator? I think I can answer a little bit of this.
hmm
It started out as a joke. I was so we have our private Discord chat where we talk a whole bunch of shit and talk about life and whatever the heck else, right?
yeah,
Um it
not for public consumption.
No, never for public consumption. Um so I made a statement in our Discord like, would anyone ever want to play a game where you just connect, basically wire network closets? And I posed the question in another Discord too, another friend's Discord, and I got reamed for it. Like, that is the dumbest idea ever. And I'm like, okay, I'm just asking the question here. And then our programmer or developer, whatever the title, Lynx, then just decides to run away with the idea, and then like a week or two later shows us an extremely rough version of it, and I'm like, oh my god, this
Like
is awesome.
I think rough is an under as a it was more than rough. It was better than rough. I mean,
Well,
he
yeah,
had
better than, yeah.
like he had cables and he was already clicking them into ports, and the ports were lighting up when you connected the cables to it. Uh, it was a working pre-alpha demo, if you will, a proof of concept, right? It was a good
Yeah.
proof of concept to the point where he even had the cage, he even had the door where you open the cage door and it flops open with a noise, and the racks are right there, and it's a couple of fake servers,
Yeah.
and the purple Walrus logo was lighting up, instead of like Dell or something else, or
Mm-hmm.
Cisco. I mean, it was really slick. I mean,
Yeah,
and so
it
then,
was.
you know, I'll let you go ahead, man. I'm
Well,
sorry. I didn't
like I
mean to.
said, and it just went from there, right? So it's just, that was kind of the inspiration. It started out as a joke. The developer Lynx took it from there and made it into what it is and becoming today. And it's just
Yeah.
started out as a joke, and now it's, oh my god, it's kind of more feedback than I even imagined, like, ever.
I mean, I never thought when I was like, if somebody had said to me that, oh my God, you're going to be writing code that mimics Ethernet frames on wire, like at that point in time, I'd have been like, no, man, we're just having fun, man. He's just goofing off, right? This is just
Yeah.
it was a joke and it's over. But see, nobody said that. That's the funniest thing. Like, so Lynx presents it to us and says, "Hey, Matt, here it is," right? And it was worthy of oohs and ahs, right? Like he did it in no time flat. Like he just like bam, there it is. And it was really cool. And he had just started working with Unreal too, so it's not like he had years of
Yeah.
Unreal experience. He didn't. And so like he really knocked this together fast in a new tool. And we were like, damn, that's super impressive. But nobody really said, well, that's funny. Now let's, what are we really going to do? And so he kept working on it because Matt kept joking. Matt would throw out the next joke. Well, what if it could do this, right? And then Lynx was coming back and it would do it. And
Well,
then it was
the other part of that story too is I had some coworkers of mine, you know, I don't know if they were just joking with me at first or like not being serious because I brought the idea and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'd play that game. And that sounds awesome." And sort of like, I don't know if it was sort of, you don't know if they're being serious and they don't know if I'm being serious as I'm asking them these questions. And then
yep.
as I'm relaying it to Lynx and he's just then programming and then I start showing some of my coworkers like, "Oh my gosh, guys, look at this." And they're like, "I would totally play that. Like, holy crap, you were being serious."
Yeah, and that's just it. So so yeah, I mean that's how it happened, and then we took it seriously. Like it's not that we weren't taking Lynx serious. What he was doing was crazy. It was great, you know. And the rope, like the wire physics, like he had nailed down like the floppy wire physics and all
Hmm.
that, and we're like, holy crap! And you know, yeah, we rolled the dice. We put up the Steam account. Well, we had a Steam account, but we put together
Yeah, the store
all
page
the
and
the store page and all the prep work and the artwork and the video and all that stuff. By the way, if you're gonna publish something on Steam, it's
it's a
not
pain.
hard,
It's a pain in
but
the
it's
butt.
pain in the butt. But it's straightforward. It's a straightforward pain in the butt. But it's not like open account, put game up. Like you got to go through some serious steps, like open a bank account, a real bank account, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a whole Steam process. But if you're an indie developer and listening to this, do it. Get out there, do all the things necessary for you to get your content up there on Steam or Epic. Make
Yeah.
something, man.
So yeah, that's pretty much the inspiration behind NetSim is start out as a joke and now like was it 4 or 5 months later? It's
Yeah, here we are.
yeah. So the
Close to
next
what? 8,000 wish lists now, or
eight
closing
thousand
in?
wait list, yeah. Yeah, when I checked the
Yeah.
other day we were over 7,600. I think nearing 7,700.
Yeah. So
It slowed down definitely, but that's to be
sure.
expected when we get the demo out. I know that we'll probably see another uptick.
Yep.
Um, so the next question we got is who are the engineers slash architects involved with NetSim?
Okay.
I'm one of them.
Yep.
I've been in the field of networking since 2007, 2008, I think. Started off as telephony, then moved my way up to like basic switching, and then just haven't stopped since then. Just work my way up to network adminning, then network engineering. Now I lead a team of network architects, and where they design and implement networks for places across the nation. And it's I love it. I personally love networking. I love mentoring newer people in it, and this is just a way for me to sort of impart mentoring knowledge to people who are interested in it.
Yep. I contribute slightly in that vein, only I was so I have early networking experience with the
Mm-hmm.
early Ethernet implementations, local area networks, kind of when they were starting to come into being in the 90s, and then a little bit on the internet side in the very beginning. I am nowhere near the capability of Zuby or others. I think Lynx definitely has experience with networking, so he knows what he's
Yep.
talking about too. And even Kurt, our CEO, he has a networking background as well. So there's really a lot of the core Walrus people, in some way, shape, or form, can talk the talk, and some of them
Oh
can walk
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, all of us can, for sure. I mean, all of us come from IT, so it's yeah. So
plus,
when you start seeing some of these level designs that were come with these, are not or not real life scenarios that we've come across, not at all. Wink,
not
wink.
at all.
Not actual places that we have seen, like IDF closets. Not at all. No, I've never
Or
seen someone rig a toilet flushing system to an AC because the AC was leaking and the building was too cheap to buy proper drainage for the AC. Never seen that before.
or a data center that was being cooled with a Florida room air conditioner.
I've actually seen a lot of those in Florida.
Oh God, dude, it was always hot in there. That equipment aged much faster than it should have. Um, and here's the thing too. Shout out to a couple of our other guys on our private, like, behind the scenes Discord. There are some friends of ours who are not, like, officially Walrus, but kind of contribute
Yeah, and
to us.
they are network engineers as well
They're
too,
also network. Yeah.
or network architects, and I
Hmm.
just I don't feel comfortable naming them by name because we don't know if
Right.
they want to be out there. But yeah, we do have other people behind the scenes that
Hmm.
just give us ideas or correct us on stuff as they see us chatting back and forth.
Yep.
You know,
And if they see this and they want to be called out, we'll call them out in the next stream. But
yep,
want to protect them first. But so there's a healthy number of people that know know this stuff, that are
yes.
involved in it.
All right, so our next question is how did Darkstorm Adventures start?
That's all you, man.
So Darkstorm Adventures. So I've been playing D&D or TTRPGs since I was 12. Then I stopped for a little bit, and I got really back into it at the tail end of high school, in my senior year, and that was. But it was D&D 3.5 or no, not 3.5. Fourth edition. Was it fourth edition then? Shit, I don't remember what edition now. It would have been either second edition or fourth edition because I never played third edition. And so, when you're a kid and have a very overactive imagination, you just start making up stories too, and making up your own worlds and whatnot. And I had no concept of, like, hey, this is a thing where people do world building and stuff like that. I was just having fun making stories and stuff, and then DMing them for my friends. Like, I've got so I even recorded. I still have the written Word document of all my adventures I did for my friends from high school up until about age 23, 24, of like almost every single session that we did in the world of Aspartia. um, so I mean, yeah, that we came up with the world of Aspartia.
You
And
still
then,
have those notes,
yep, I still got them.
dude? We
It's
got to put
about
some.
50 pages long.
We should frame some of those.
Well, I mean, it's all digital. It's I don't have like the original. Well, no, I still have the original notebook somewhere of
All
like some
right.
of the early stages of it. But so Darkstorm Adventures came about when I went up to you and Kurt and be like, "Hey, I want to help out, but I don't know anything about game programming, but I've always wanted to write a book." and you guys are like, yeah, let's do it. And then I essentially had an adventure module sort of pre-written but really rough shape. And then the past year, it's just been getting it into a much better shape and turning it into a book. But the name Darkstorm Adventures actually came from Kurt, because we were originally wanting to call it. It wasn't Darkstorm Adventures. There was another name for it. Now I cannot remember.
Yeah, that's right. It is Kurt. Kurt named it.
Oh, I remember. I don't remember the exact name of the series, but so the antagonist Cyric Silverflame was actually called Cyric Darkstorm at first. And then when Kurt heard that, he just said like, whoa, Darkstorm. Okay. I love it. Let's use that as the title of the books and all that.
I remember that now.
And then at first I was like, well, that's the name of the character. Then I'm like, I let it sit with me and I'm like, I love it then, because if we ever decide to write like a source book or a world book, you know, we have Darkstorm Adventures, the adventure module line, Darkstorm source book or something, you know, whatever. Like it's a source book line. And so, I mean, that's pretty much how Darkstorm Adventures came to be. And it's, there's so much to the world that, and I think I've mentioned on previous episodes that we have a little world Bible that we've started. And I've actually, this past week, since working on book 2, I've also been writing up notes for more lore of the world too, again. And it's,
yep.
I mean, that's pretty much the genesis of it.
Yep. It's really it's been fascinating to listen to Zuby tell us about the world. I mean, it really has been. It's been amazing. Like, just you know, being like his first line editor, not final content and not, you know, all the proper English and all that, but like you know, being able to edit it and, you know, point to things and say, well, what about, you know, have you know, thought about this, or why would that person even show up there? You know, just it's so much fun to read his content and just, you know, it's you know.
No, I appreciate that. It's
fantastic.
Well, see, and well, no, let's move on because I can keep going. But no, so our next, because we've got 3 more to go, and it's already getting a little bit late. So, do you remember the first TTRPG you played? And I'll start with you.
Yeah, man. Listen, it's gonna be. I don't know if I can find it fast enough to show it on stream, but it was the original Dungeons and Dragons introductory box set, where it had the dice were all different colored, and each color
was the red box.
It was
the dragon on the front.
It was the one with the dragon on the front, on top of a hoard of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was that. Now, I'm not going to tell you what year it was, right? Because that's just depressing for me, right? But it was the original Dungeons and Dragons starter box, and I can tell you exactly what got me into it. So I'm sitting there, you know, in high school. Obviously, it happened in high school, and my best friend is sitting next to me in English class, and it was we're just goofing off before class started, right? And he's like, "Hey, check this out!" And of course, back then, right, news articles were on something called paper with ink to represent the letters, right? So I know
I don't know what you're talking about.
Crazy, right? Anyway, he had but we had. We had been playing board games. Again, I'll make this a short story if I can, but we'd been playing board games all through high school. Like, remember Panzer Blitz from Avalon Hill? We played Panzer Blitz from Avalon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some other, you know, war game kind of things. Anyway, so he had this little thin magazine that he would get about, you know, games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget this. There's this he opens it up and he's like, "Hey man, read this real quick. Would you know, I just want to get your thoughts on it if you would do that." And so I'm reading through this thing, and it's this article that talks about these college kids and it starts going through and describing the very bare bones concepts of Dungeons and Dragons. And
Oh, that's
honestly,
awesome.
yeah, and honestly, the writer was nailed it. He like, it wasn't hyperbole. He wasn't like, he really understood what they were saying, and he wrote it very well. And it was exactly that. And so I've read this article, and I'm like, yeah, man, I think I'd do this. Like, this sounds kind of weird and interesting. So um, I'll never forget. I did not have my license at the time, so my dad drives me to the hobby store, and I got this article with me, right? I've got the
Oh, that's
magazine
so
and
cool.
everything.
Yeah.
And I walk up to the guy behind the counter all sheepish, right? And I'm like, hey, so I'm reading this article about this new game or something called Dungeons and Dragons. Do you guys have this? And he just gets this big smile on his face, and he goes, tell you what, you want the starter box, and it's right there. And he gets the if it's called the
Oh,
red box, it's the red box. He picks it up, hands it to me. He's like, this is it. And I forget how much it was. It was like dirt. It wasn't very expensive, right? So I paid for it and walked out of there. And I get home. Again, no cell phones, right? Back then, the phone was hanging on the wall, right? So I pick up the phone and I call Mark, and I'm like, hey, Mark, I got it. And he's like, what? And I go, yeah, I went out and I bought the Dungeons and Dragons book. I'm reading it, right. I opened the box up. It's got dice in it, and
oh,
I'm reading the booklet, because it was all little booklets, and stuff. And I'm reading through it. And I'm like, oh my god, we can do this. This is amazing, right? And we did. That's how we got started playing Dungeons and Dragons.
that's
And then
awesome.
probably 3 months later, we scraped enough cash together to get like the DM's guide and the player's handbook, and we were constantly like exchanging them during, like one day during class we'd switch off, and he'd take the player handbook home, and I'd be working on the DM's guide. And
Oh,
I mean,
that's dude, I love that. That's a way better story than mine.
that's it. That's exactly how it all happened and started. And the rest is history.
God, so I was younger than you when I started D&D. I think I was like 11 or 12. Um, and I remember at the time I was playing Magic the Gathering a lot. Um, and
Okay.
I don't even know, I can't even recall if I even knew what D&D was at that age. You know, to be honest, because I honestly cannot remember, but I remember being at my friend's house and his older brother was seeing us either play Magic or video games or something. He's like, "Hey, you want to play this board game, D&D or Dungeons and Dragons?" I'm like, "Okay, what do you do?" It's like, so he starts describing it, and I'm like, "Wait, I can make my own character. I don't have to, because you remember other board games, you'd be some character or something like whatever, Hero Quest or something, and you know, so I'm like, wait, I can make my own character. So I remember it was second edition, just pouring over the player's handbook, and I'm like, a half elf rogue sounds completely badass, and that's what we played for a little bit. I don't remember anything about the character or anything about the sessions we did, but from there, like after we stopped playing for a few months, like I didn't play again till later in high school, but it opened up a whole new world of fantasy for me because by when I was 11 or 12, I'd already read like, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that, and familiar with like King Arthur
Yep.
fantasy stuff, Beowulf and all that, but never really knew anything about Dragonlance or Forgotten Realms. And so sort of like by happenstance, when I got introduced to D&D, then I found Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms, and the rest is history. And then I came back to it when I was 16, 17, 18, something like that, and pretty much haven't stopped since then.
Yeah. I equally good story.
Yeah.
Equally good story, man. It's just crazy. I remember my first character. So I DM'd for that group a lot, right? But I remember playing a character, and it was a rogue, basically. That was my first character ever. Was a rogue. um, I even do remember. I don't remember my character's name, but I remember
Yeah, I don't remember mine.
this other guy in the group, right? He played a warrior, and I do remember that name. I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
because
Okay.
like when he picked the name, I was like, oh God, are you gonna take
So
this seriously?
so one of the things that I just thought of this where now that I'm thinking about the age that I grew up in, because I grew up in the beginning of the internet, and not like the internet it is nowadays, but I
Right.
know even back then there was a lot of popular online usage of D&D and TTRPGs, and I wish I knew that as a kid growing up, because I'm sure I would have played way more D&D online than I knew. But it just that sort of thing, like, I never thought it was a thing, right? Same with
Right.
when I started creating my world. I'm sure there were already so many resources of how to do world building and all this stuff. I didn't know it was a thing, you know. Whereas nowadays you can Google world building and get whole tutorials and lessons on how to exactly do it. And
Hmm.
while it's great, I feel like it kind of takes away the magic a little bit of it.
Yeah, it does. Look, there's nothing like picking that first box or book up in person, right? And thumbing
Yeah.
through it and reading it and getting excited and like you said, what? I can build my own character? I mean, that
Yeah.
was I mean, we had been playing board games. I mean, think about from our perspective, right? We were essentially playing the ultimate third person kind of game, right? We're playing
Mhm.
Panzer Blitz, and I don't know if anybody remembers Panzer Blitz, but it's a look it up. It's out of print and out of circulation, but man, it was a fun ass um,
I'm looking it up
squad
right now.
squad level board game where you're playing. You can have different units that you're putting out on.
Oh, I think I recognize this game. Yeah. I
I
think
would give
I've played it
anything.
before.
I would give anything to have a copy of that game in good condition, so I could play it with somebody. And it was a great game, man. I absolutely love that board game. Um, but we'd been playing that forever and a day, and of course reading Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit,
Mhm.
all these Sword of Shannara, right? So when this game comes along and says you can create your own playable character, and Sally plays the role of a wizard or witch, right? Whatever, and I'm like, what? You were spot on with that. That was the hook, man. I can do whatever I want.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I know what present I'm gonna get you for when I come up to Ohio this summer. Because
Oh, damn it.
I mean, look, Panzer Blitz is not very expensive. Like pre-owned copies of it that look like in decent shape.
Okay, all right. Now there was a
Looks like
secondary.
yeah, it looks like there was a lot of expansions with it or something. Or
Well, so Panzer Blitz was the Western Front. There's another one called Panzer Leader, and Panzer Leader
yeah,
was
I
the
see
Eastern
that.
Front,
Okay,
right? Like one was the orange box, the other one was the yellow box.
yeah.
But they worked together. Like they were one system. They could work together. So, um, you know, all
Okay.
right. Well, you don't have to do that, Matt, but or Zuby, but you do what you want, man. You do what you want. Um, so what's the next question?
All right, so we got our last question of the night. Because we sort of answered our first character question. We both played
Okay.
rogues, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, yours would have just been a human rogue because it was just humans back
Yes.
then. Mine
Hmm.
was, I think, second edition came out. They had half elves. I think by then, or am I
Yeah. So
lying? Or would have been an elf rogue. Hold on, let me
no,
get my
no,
second edition book and find out.
no. I think they had half elves.
So I've got my second edition book right here.
Dude, that should have a half elf in it.
I cannot remember. If it wasn't a half elf, it would have been a elf. Yeah, okay, yeah. So they did have half elves, so it was a half elf then.
My character was a female human rogue. That was my character.
I don't remember my decision for playing a half elf. I think I was just reading everything and just it sounded the coolest at the time.
Yeah. It was a pretty cool class. I love the fact that they could like if you were, because remember back then, right? It was not the game it is today. So back then it was
No.
very dungeon crawly. You're getting together with your friends to go through a dungeon. Hence the
Yep.
name, right? You are not you were not traveling from city to city and wandering monsters appeared, or some outdoor encounter. There was none of that
No.
stuff, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that's in the system now because it's excellent gameplay, but it was just a hand-drawn dungeon, and that was the reason I played it. A rogue was so that I could pick the trap, pick locks, right, to open treasure chests and doors, and to disarm traps. That was the only reason
Oh,
I was
that
playing
wasn't
it.
my reason. I was a shitlord. I wanted to steal from people and steal from my own party. I'm a
That's pretty.
11, 12-year-old kid, and I mean, all of us, we were all shitlords to each other, and it was fun though. It was fun. So our last question of the night is: do you have a memorable session or a session that really stands out to
Oh
you?
God,
And
yeah.
and there's so many that I can pick, but I've got mine that I can
I've
pick.
got I've got mine, and it's really not from any recent play. So, um, all right, I'll start. Mine's quick and simple. So in high school, I kind of over-engineered a dungeon, and it was a TPK, total party kill. I
Oh
killed
damn!
everybody's character in one day. Like, we'd been playing with these characters for a while and all that. And I didn't mean to, but the dungeon was so hard that it killed. They didn't give up. They just kept going, and thinking that I was gonna pull punches, and I didn't, because back then I was a kid, man. I was having fun, and I killed them all. They were pissed. God, they were so angry at me. It took months before I could convince them to play again. Like, they
Wow.
were that pissed off at me. But we did eventually start playing D&D again and rolled new characters, and um, you know, we never saw that dungeon again. I threw it
Oh
away.
god, that's hilarious. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've had a few TPKs in my time as DMing, but I remember this one session. I've got it written in my notes because it was back when in high school or college. My players, there was only I think 3 players at the time, and they were in some town. Oh God, I'd have to look at my notes, but I don't remember. Something led to another in the town where they started a big fight, started killing people in a tavern, and then a whole bunch of guards come and they eventually get arrested. They get tried and they're on the gallows about to be hung, and all my players were pissed because they felt like, oh, I was justified. I could totally kill people and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to roll a 20-sided die, and I'm going to write whatever will happen depending on what number you land on. So, I wrote on a piece of paper, if they roll 1 through 3, death, 4 through 6, death. And it wasn't going to be a nat 20. It was going to be a random number in there that they rolled where I'm like, it's only one number that something will occur, or that will actually, Deus Ex Machina them, where they will
Okay.
survive. And they happen to roll that number. And the Deus Ex Machina was, because trying to think of an idea, I'm like, okay, they're gonna die. There's no way they're gonna roll this number. It's not a nat 10. It was a number between 10 to 12, I think, something like that.
Okay.
And so they roll that number, and I'm like, okay, well, a giant monstrous bear will barrel into town at the same time and eat everybody, and somehow they'll be free from the gallows. I'm like, I wrote something that stupid. And then I'm like,
Right.
so they roll the dice, and I'm like, my jaw just drops, and I'm like, I'm kind of pissed too at the same time. I'm like, and all the players are like, what happened? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I show them the piece of paper that I wrote, and they're like, what? That it was all death except for that one number.
Oh my god,
And so I'm
that's
like, a giant bear comes, starts eating everybody in the town except you, and his giant body like knocks the gallows over or whatever, freeing you, and you've got to think quickly on what you want to do.
oh god.
I'm like,
That's fucking hysterical.
I mean, it was funny. Like, I laughed, but at the time I was pissed. I'm like, fuck you guys.
Dude, oh god, those are the moments though, right?
Yeah.
Did I remember? So we were. Well, it's memorable, but it's not the kind of memorable we've been talking about. We were playing. We were playing. Kurt and I. Kurt knows this. Playing D&D just before the pandemic with some people, and one of them, their son, wanted to play D&D.
Oh, I think I know which one you're about to talk about.
Yeah, you remember that? And
Yeah.
I kept trying to convince this guy, like, this isn't a game that, like, we want you, the grown up, to please read this how this game works and educate him, because I think that the kid probably had a good he's probably good imagination, but he's just becoming a teenager in a room full of adults, right? Playing this game. We're like, if you teach him, he's going to be good, and he's going to fold right in, and any age differences will disappear. Would you please, for the love of God, take this seriously and help him out, because otherwise you're going to ruin this for him, and he could have a lifetime experience, but you're going to ruin it for him because you're not taking it seriously, right?
Yeah.
The only reason you're here is because he wants to be here, but he doesn't have the skills yet to be at our level. So would you please work with him? And he never did. That's really the real reason why the kid behaved the way he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, I'm like, man, if he had just taken it seriously, that kid would have a lot of fun, right? So.
Well, yeah, and I think, I mean, that could be a whole podcast episode we do there, like just DMing tips and all that. Because, I mean, hey, let's do that for a podcast episode.
I think so.
But that just brings up a really good point, because there was a time I was DMing for a local game store with a whole bunch of players, from all walks of life. And you would have the people who would, not take it super seriously, which is fine, if that's what the whole group wants to do, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. But if you have people who want to, like, play somewhat seriously, and then you're just going to be a jerk off, then it's going to be like, all right, we'll get the hell out of here,
Yeah. And it wasn't like we were being hyper serious, right?
Yeah.
We were it's casual plus, right? But the problem is that, like, the kid's struggling. He doesn't understand the mechanics of the game, nor is he, he's not probably reading it. Could you instruct him and bring him up to speed? And I lay this totally at the parent's feet. He was kind of a dick. So
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens, but no, so that's all our questions there. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap it up, that a future episode will be about stories of DMing and oops, I didn't do that. Stories of DMing and like tips and tricks, and talk about
playing
our history.
The game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's fantastic, I think that whatever, I'll close with this. Whatever, if you want to think about playing a role-playing game, just pick one up, man. Doesn't matter what it is. D&D, Pathfinder, whatever. There's lots of good ones. There's science fiction ones out there. Hell, there's even an alien one, like in the movie Alien. Just go, man. Use your imagination.
Or make up your own.
Yeah, make up your own.
I did that for a long time, where we just made up our own. It was like a mix of D&D and Final Fantasy, which it was a lot of fun. We played that for a long time along with D&D, and it was,
Yep.
it was fun.
Imagine
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah. It's fun rolling dice and just and that's the thing. Like I'll end with yeah. It is super geeky and nerdy to play these kind of games, but it's also, I mean, the fun of it comes from, being with your friends, having a good time, laughing at the dumbest things you all can think of. And especially if everyone's on the same page and having fun, there's nothing like it. It's,
Exactly.
it's not a board game where you're stuck on these are the only rules you can do. Like, you're only limited by what you can imagine.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
It's you know, it's fun. It's fun to imagine. It's fun to play games. Go do it, man. Life's too short.
so we will end it there. Thank you, everybody, for coming by the live stream. If you are listening on the audio or watching the VOD, thank you for listening and watching. Stay tuned to our social media for updates on Darkstorm Adventures and Network Simulator. Join our Walrus Discord. We're getting people joining almost every day here. It's growing. We want it to grow more, get a community going. We want to, start getting some games playing too, because I know at some point this year we're going to start playtesting stuff and
Yep.
get some people roll some dice.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go, man. All right.
All right. We'll see you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.